Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to another video. It's another first on the channel for me today as I want to talk about a handheld gaming device, the Asus ROG Ally X. I've been using the Ally X for a few months now, even recently taking it on vacation with me. Note that Asus didn't send this to me, not surprisingly given the size of this channel. Although I'll briefly discuss some physical and technical comparisons to the previous ROG Ally, I want to clarify up front that this isn't a comparison video. That's because I didn't own the previous Ally, so I can't offer meaningful opinions there. In fact, if we ignore the Switch, this is my first handheld gaming console since the Game Boy Color. The Ally X comes with a 65-watt charger, though it does support up to 100 watts of charging, and I would have really liked to have seen that included here, but you'll need to opt for a third-party charger if you want a bit more charging juice. It also comes with two stands, which you can use to prop up the Ally X for display, or to show off for some B-roll. But honestly, they feel really cheap as I think they're made out of cardboard. I'd recommend getting a case to store it when it's not in use, as leaving it propped up on these is just asking for trouble in my opinion. For my part, I did pick up the Spigen rugged Armor Pro hardshell case, which I can attest is awesome and was fantastic for me while I was recently on vacation overseas. I will leave an affiliate link for that down in the description below in case you're interested in taking a look at it. Design-wise, the ROG branding is pronounced throughout the Ally X, with the ROG lettering on the bottom of the screen, on the hand grips, and the logo on the back. Lastly, the grip texture itself is effectively a bunch of ROG lettering, which is a nice touch. It weighs 678 grams, is 11 inches wide and 4.5 inches tall, and 1.5 inches thick. So while it's slightly larger and heavier than the original Ally, it remains highly portable and sturdy. The thumbsticks feel great and once again have an asymmetrical design. Notably, the thumbsticks have customizable RGB lighting around both of them, which I'll cover in a bit. The buttons, bumpers, and triggers all feel good and easy to use, though I did have a small annoying issue with one of the triggers, which I'll talk about later. There are also 4 buttons around the screen. One is the view button, which can do things like access in-game menus. You have the menu button, which functions similarly to the view button, depending on the context. Last, you have the command center and Armoury Crate buttons, both of which I'll cover shortly. At the top is a USB 4/DisplayPort 1.4 port and a USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type-C /DisplayPort 1.4 port, the latter also acting as a DC input for charging it. The volume controls are here, as well as a headphone jack and the power button, which also acts as a fingerprint reader. There's also a micro SD card slot, which supports up to UHS 2 to extend the existing 1 TB of storage, as well as 2 large air vents on the left and right, which are connected to each of the rear fans. Lastly, at the back are 2 customizable macro buttons, which are easy to access. Ergonomically, it all works together pretty well in my opinion, and it feels great to use. The Ally X has a 7-inch full HD LCD screen. It has a max resolution of 1080p, a max refresh rate of 120 Hz, and a peak brightness of 500 nits. It kind of sucks that it's not an OLED, but the screen is coated with Corning Gorilla Glass DXC for added durability and glare reduction. It does have a glossy finish, so reflections are a bit of a nuisance in brighter settings, but it's not that bad. Like the previous Ally, it has a Ryzen Z1 Extreme processor, which continues to be paired with AMD's integrated RDNA 3 graphics, which gives fairly powerful and energy-efficient performance. This time, however, you also get a pretty hefty 24 gigs of LPDDR5X RAM, a notable upgrade over the previous Ally 16 gigs. Another thing I want to point out here is that the RAM runs at 7500 megatransfers per second, and since the Ally X uses integrated graphics, which uses the system RAM since it doesn't have its own dedicated VRAM, this can make a significant difference to the Ally X's gaming performance. Out of the box, the Ally X has a 1 TB M.2 SSD, but since it now uses the 80mm sticks, you can upgrade it to a maximum of 8 TB. Internally, it has a larger 80 Wh battery versus the original Ally's 40 Wh battery. According to some benchmarks, the Ally X really does last twice as long. Personally, I found that I could game for nearly 2 hours on turbo mode. What this amounts to when comparing the Ally X to the original Ally is not a boost in GPU power, but rather a focus on memory, storage, battery, and port upgrades. Since the Ally X relies on Windows 11, Asus provides software called Armoury Crate that effectively serves as a central hub for managing and optimizing your gaming experience on the Ally X. What it's really doing is making the Windows 11 experience more manageable to navigate and access your games and system settings without needing to interact too much with the desktop. You can browse and launch your entire game library from different platforms like Steam, Xbox Game Pass, EA Launcher, and more, all from one unified interface. There are also a variety of customization and performance settings. You can configure performance profiles to balance power and battery life, calibrate your thumbsticks and buttons, remap keys to perform several built-in actions, and even customize the RGB lighting around the thumbsticks. You can also check for software updates and manage your system preferences easily from here. Another quick access feature is Command Center, which is bundled with Armoury Crate. It's essentially a pop-up menu designed to give fast, real-time access to various settings and system information without ever leaving your game. You can adjust things like the screen brightness, operating modes, and my favorite, the real-time monitor, which allows you to monitor GPU and CPU usage and frame rates, among other things. The Ally X uses some pretty cool tech in its triggers called Hall effect sensors. These use magnetic fields to detect movement without physical contact, making them more accurate and longer lasting than traditional switches. While the triggers benefit from this tech, the thumbsticks still use the old school potentiometers. But don't worry, Gillykit has announced they're working on Hall effect thumbsticks for the Ally X, which could really step up its game in terms of performance. So over the past few months, I've downloaded and played several games on the Ally X. If you know me at all, I'm not always on top of the latest games, but I tried to sample several games, older and newer, to get an idea of how the Ally X performs. Everything played was on turbo mode. The very first game I played on the Ally X was Skyrim Special Edition, where I was getting a consistent 50 to 60 FPS with zero stuttering. Forza Horizon 4 had me racing at a pretty consistent 60 FPS, with Red Dead Redemption 2 hovering somewhere between 40 to 50 FPS. Resident Evil 3 had me searching around corners for the undead at around 70 to 90 FPS, and Cyberpunk on medium settings with AMD Fidelity FX on performance mode hovered around 50 FPS while on foot and around 40 to 45 FPS while driving, depending on where I was. Jedi Survivor hovered anywhere between 35 to 60 FPS depending on what I was doing, with ray tracing turned off, with everything on medium settings, and Fidelity FX on ultra performance mode. The haptic motors of the Ally X feel decent and do a nice job of immersing you into the game. You can configure the haptic settings as well through Armoury Crate, though nothing will ever beat the original Rumble Pack for the N64. I'm kidding. No, I'm not. The speakers on the Ally X sound great to me, with dual front-firing speakers that support Dolby Atmos.
None of you! Oh, God, I can't believe that this dump is coming. I'm ready for the chase. Take him down. I've got him. All right, Bravo, keep it up.
However, out of the box, I found them to be on the quiet side. One fix I found for this was to open up the Dolby Atmos app and set the sound profile to Custom 1, which significantly improved the sound for me. While the sound coming from the speakers isn't mind-blowing, for a handheld device, they sound quite awesome. I did compare it to my MacBook Pro's speakers, and this is what it sounded like.
Sometimes it works out and sometimes it don't. Sometimes you win some and sometimes you won't. But we could be everything that we see. We could be everything that we want. We could be everything that we could be anything that we want.
As mentioned, there are two fans on the back, which adapts to the silent, performance, and turbo operating modes. Even on the turbo mode, the fan noise isn't bad at all and is more than tolerable. Since the Ally X uses Windows 11, you can connect it to a dock and use it just like a regular PC. When gaming, the Ally X only pushes out a max resolution of 1080p due to the integrated RDNA 3 graphics. However, with the USB 4/Thunderbolt 4 port, it is possible to connect to an eGPU to give you the necessary power to run games smoothly at higher resolutions. Honestly, gaming at 1080p on my monitor felt fine for the most part, though on an ultra-wide, it can be a bit underwhelming. Keep in mind though that it can push out up to 4K when not gaming. So overall, the Ally X is effectively a mini PC and can act as your workstation should you want it to. There's so many things to like about the Ally X. First is the battery life. The 80 watt-hour battery on this had me gaming on turbo mode for nearly 2 full hours, which is fantastic. Compared to the competition, this is currently the largest battery offered for a handheld gaming device. The ROG Ally is also fairly easy to self-service. All you need to do is unscrew the 6 screws at the back and then pry apart the 2 panels. Do be careful when doing this, however, as the daughter board that's mounted to the rear panel is connected to the main board via a thin cable, so if you yank it open quickly, you might end up damaging it, causing you to lose access to the macro keys. Once opened, the first thing you might notice is the large aforementioned 80 watt-hour battery, which stretches across the entire device. From here, for example, you can upgrade the SSD or swap out the joysticks. Since the Ally X uses Windows 11, it has broad game compatibility, which effectively ensures that no matter which distribution platform you're using, the games will work on the Ally X. As mentioned, since the Ally X supports the longer 80mm sticks, you can upgrade the internal hard drive space up to 8 terabytes, which is awesome. The 24 gigs of RAM also allow the Ally X to perform well in all of the games that I tested on it, and the 7500 megatransfers per second pairs well for performance with the RDNA 3 integrated graphics. Lastly, the Thunderbolt 4/USB 4 port is a huge deal, at least to me. The fact that it can do things like support external GPUs, offer fast data transfer for external storage, and connect to multiple peripherals, including outputting 4K to external monitors with no lag, effectively turns the ROG Ally X into a mini PC. The versatility here is just really good, and it also means you can have a one cable connection to an external monitor for both charging and connectivity. Everything is not completely perfect, however. The first con, in my opinion, of the Ally X is also part of its strengths when it comes to the fact that it can double as a mini PC and offer broad game compatibility. And that is its reliance on Windows 11. This is just my opinion, but using Windows 11 on a handheld straight up sucks, at least on the Ally X. Using the touchscreen helps and makes navigating around easier, but you're effectively forced to use it since Windows 11 doesn't always recognize controller inputs, and even if it did, it's just not a pleasant experience, even with a provided mouse via a combination between the right thumbstick and right bumper. But hey, this is also a pro depending on the context, so this one kind of balances itself out. Second are bugs I encountered with Armoury Crate. Often the thumbsticks simply stop working for no apparent reason, requiring a restart even after performing an app repair. Some quick searches reveal that I'm not alone in experiencing this issue, and it feels like a software one, so I hope Asus addresses it soon, as it's quite frustrating. If you face similar problems or know of a solution, please share them down in the comments below. Overall, I just haven't had a consistently good experience with it so far, which has been frustrating. By the way, if you ever do something stupid like I did and accidentally uninstall Armoury Crate, or you just want to find some drivers for the Ally X, I did find them all on the ROG Ally X product page. Just navigate over to the support tab and then to the driver and tool section. Another issue that I had was that one of the triggers was a little squeaky, which got annoying pretty quickly. The triggers I've heard can be prone to becoming this way over time. In my case, I used some keyboard lubricant and brushed it on the hinges, which cleared it right up, so in case you encounter this is one solution you can try. Last is the price. At $800 US, we're nearing custom PC territory. Maybe not the most powerful PC, but still something more than capable of playing the latest games. Add the fact that you only get 1 terabyte of internal storage at that price, and you've got some things to think about. By comparison, for example, as of the making of this video, the Steam Deck OLED can be had for $649 US for the 1 terabyte version. Overall, I'll put it like this. The ROG Ally X is a great gaming handheld, and I continue to have fun using it. It plays every game I've thrown at it well, has excellent battery life, and the controls feel intuitive and easy to use. Armoury Crate makes it easy to jump into your games, Command Center lets you make quick updates on the fly, and you can connect it via Thunderbolt 4/USB 4 to external devices like an eGPU or directly to a monitor, which makes it really versatile. Now, do I recommend the Ally X? Well, it really depends on your situation. If you already own the original Ally and are considering an upgrade, I probably wouldn't go for it, given what I know about the previous model and the Ally X's price. However, if you're like me, new to the handheld gaming scene and looking to dive in, the Ally X is arguably one of the best, if not the best device available as of the making of this video. If you can justify the somewhat steep price, by all means, go for it. You won't be disappointed. For me, this is a challenging general recommendation to make, despite the Ally X's impressive performance. Given the price point and considering Asus's recent track record, I can't wholeheartedly endorse the Ally X without some reservations. However, for those of you who prioritize cutting-edge handheld gaming technology and have the budget to match, the Ally X remains a very compelling option in the current market. That's about all I have for this one, guys. If you're still here, please make sure to drop me a fire emoji down in the comments below, just so I can give you a like for sticking around until the end of the video. If you like this video, please remember to hit that like button, and please consider subscribing and hitting that bell icon so you know when I release new videos. Doing both of those things really helps me out in growing this small channel. If you're interested in following more regular updates from me, you can find me over on Instagram and Twitter/X at 2byThomas. I've got more tech, desk setup, and gaming content planned as usual, so please stay tuned for that. As always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.